Hey, welcome to this spiral video. My name is Sarah Powell and I work at the University of Texas at Austin. And here I'm today here with you to talk about the length model of fractions, and here we're going to use Cuisenaire rods. With the length model of fractions, we're always thinking about fractions according to their length. Most often, that's around a number line orientation. And we're going to use Cuisenaire rods. Those are colorful rods that you might often use for counting or addition and subtraction, but we can also use them to help students understand fractions. And they're very flexible when it comes to fractions, which is one of the reasons the Cuisenaire rods are an awesome manipulative to use. So we are going to use those Cuisenaire rods to show two different fractions today. First, we'll talk about the fraction 3/5, and then we will talk about the fraction 5/3. Let's go ahead and get started. So we are first going to show the fraction 3/5, and then in a little bit, we will talk about the fraction 5/3. But let's first talk about 3/5. If I'm going to use these Cuisenaire rods, which are these very colorful rods that you see right over here, I first have to focus on the denominator. And in this problem, the denominator is 5. That means I want to show a whole that's divided into 5 equal parts. Well, one of the ways that I can do that is think about having 5 equal parts. So maybe I get these cubes out here and I show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and then I figure out a whole that is the same size. Here, that yellow rod has the same length as 5 white cubes. But then I need to focus on the numerator, and in this fraction I want to show 3 of those 5 equal parts. So if I remove those 2 white cubes just like that, here I have shown the fraction 3/5. But the really cool thing about the Cuisenaire rods is I can show 3/5 in another way. So maybe I think about using these red rods right here, and I show 5 of them. And then I think about, well, these 5 red rods are equivalent to, well, not that blue rod. No, that's not it. How about this orange rod? And so I can say I have 5/5, but I want to show 3/5, so I'll remove 2 of those rods to show the fraction 3/5. Now, why do these represent the length model of fractions? Well, I could imagine a number line running along each of these holes, where here this represents 0, and this space represents 1, or here on this example of 3/5, I can show 0 and 1. So then I have an idea of the value of 3/5. If I think about 1/2 as being equal between 0 and 1, here I can see that 3/5 is greater than 1/2, but less than 1. So with the Cuisenaire rods, I showed 3/5 in 2 different ways. You could also show 3/5 in other ways beyond the 2 that I just showed. Now let's look at this fraction here, 5/3. Now we're going to focus on a fraction that has 3 equal parts in the denominator. So perhaps I think about using these green rods here, these lime green rods. So there's 3/3, and then I find a whole that is the same size. So maybe I test it out. Nope, that doesn't work. How about this blue rod? Oh, there we go. So there's 3/3. But then I need 5 of those thirds. So then I'm going to show another set, and then I have the same whole. So here's 3/3 and 2/3. So together that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thirds. And then I can see some really cool things about this fraction right here. 5/3 is equivalent to 1 and 2/3. So that's a really nice way to use my Cuisenaire rods to show students how this fraction, you might call it a fraction, you might call this an improper fraction, or you might call it a fraction that's equal to or greater than 1, but then you can show how that's equivalent to the mixed number, which is 1 and 2/3. Now, when you are using these Cuisenaire rods, and when we are working with fractions that are greater than 1, you really have to think about the spacing of these Cuisenaire rods. Because if I place these too close together, oh my gosh, that ends up looking like 5/6. But it's not 5/6, it's 5/3. So I'm going to put a little space here between this first set of 3/3 And then this second set of what would be 3/3, but I'm only showing 2 of those 3 equal parts to show that I have a break between 0 and 1 and 2 on my number line. So speaking of that number line, I could draw a number line along here to show what my fraction represents according to this length model. So here I see 0 to 1. Then I might scoot these just a little bit closer to then show from 1 to 2 on my number line. And then I get a really great visual for seeing that 5/3 is definitely greater than 1, but 5/3 is less than 2. So those were some examples of how to use our Cuisenaire rods to show different fractions such as 3/5 and 5/3. Thanks for tuning into this Math Spiral video. Please visit mathspiral.com for other videos very similar to this, some with fractions and some with whole numbers, some with decimals. You go and check it out.